Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. My name is Sudhir Sahasranaman, and you're watching Careers with Sudhir. This is the channel where we give career related advice, advice related to higher education, advice related to important academic decisions in your life, in your child's life. So, in this particular video, I'm going to discuss one very commonly asked question, especially when a child is at the class 10 level, has just written the board examination, or perhaps is moving from class 9 to class 10. Which board to choose in class 11? What is the strategy that I need to employ? What are the things that I need to bear in mind? So I'm going to do in this video is to do a SWOT analysis. What is SWOT analysis? S for strength, W for weakness, O for opportunities, and T for threats. It is called SWOT analysis in corporate lingo. Okay, so before I start, I just want to tell you, there have been many of you who have been kind of sending me queries over email or on Instagram DM. Just want to tell you that if you are a parent looking for career or higher education related advice for your child or need guidance on how to approach your class 10 and 12, and this is very important, the study plan, this regular study plan, the 3-month plan, the 6-month plan for your child, you can write to us for a paid one-on-one online session. Because when I write as a mail, obviously I can't include all of details. There are no doubt solving that happens. So we can have a interactive session one-on-one where all these doubts could be solved, provided you send me all your queries so that I can be well prepared to answer all of them. So that is something which can be done. The email ID is given below. Now, the big decision for class 11. Okay, should you go with CBSE? Should you go for ISC? Or should you go for any of the state boards, depending on which state you are a resident of? Now, it is a critical decision because what you choose in class 11 and 12 pretty much decides what the future, immediate future after class 12 will be, right? I personally feel that you need to know what you plan to do after class 12, and that will impact your decision at this point in time, because there are some differences between the three boards which you need to be aware of. Now, what does it depend on? This particular decision on which board to take. See, I have been doing a lot of videos on which stream to follow. Science, these are the opportunities. Commerce, these are the opportunities. You don't need to write NEET necessarily. There are many other much more lucrative options to NEET also. Which private engineering colleges to go to? What are the options? BBA or BCom? There are a whole lot of videos on this channel. Please look at it because they are full of information, relevant information. So what does this particular decision depend on? It depends on the career ambition. What does the child really want to do in his or her life? And the specific competitive examination. For example, if I want to pursue law, I will be writing CLAT. Now, which board will help me write CLAT better? If I want to do engineering or medicine, I will be writing the JEE or NEET. Which board is better? Or I want to go to the humanities side. What is better? Or I want to do CA. Which board is better? You need to be aware of, and your decision pretty much will depend on these competitive examinations, which competitive examination you are planning to aim at. So let's do a SWOT analysis. Let's first look at CBSE, right? CBSE, to put it very straight, it's ideal for students targeting JEE and NEET and even CUET, for the simple reason that NCERT books, textbooks, form the base for all these examinations. All these three examinations: NEET, where you have the maximum number of students taking the examination, then comes CUET, and then comes JEE. All three keep NCERT textbooks as the base. So the curriculum, therefore, is aligned with NCERT, which is followed by this entrance examination. And because it's an NCERT book, the syllabus is structured irrespective of whether you are a resident of Kochi in Kerala or Jalandhar in Punjab or Kolkata in Bengal. It will be the same syllabus. Okay. But there are some weaknesses also. The English and humanities. And if you are looking to do a humanities related course, the English and humanities subjects are a bit weak in CBSE as compared to ISC. Okay. I'm expecting that the NCRT books, which will roll out in a couple of years, will try to rectify that. That way, ISC is much, much better. The the focus as far as CBSE in humanities subjects and in English is more on functional communication rather than deep analysis. So if you are looking for a job which will entail a lot of interviews for admission, etc., later on in your career, then what happens is that as a CBSE student, you may not be very good in communication or articulation. I'm not generalizing. I am not generalizing. But by and large, an ISC student is better equipped to tackle that kind of a situation. That's the only difference. Again, it will depend from student to student, but I'm talking in very, very general terms. The opportunity, as I mentioned, something like the CUET, great, JE, very good, NEET, very good. The threat is that in CBSE, you are competing with 20 lakh plus other students. Okay. In ISC, in comparison, you are competing with just over 1 lakh odd students, right? Between 1.25, 1.5 kind of thing. Evaluation is quite strict in CBSE, and you need to really work hard to get a 95% score. So this is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as far as CBSE is concerned. You need to take a call what you are looking for, and thereby you act accordingly. Okay, but wait till the end. Don't rush away now, because there is more coming up in the form of the state board. The next is the ISC. Okay, after ICSE, my advice to ICSE students is that if you have studied in ICSE from class 1 to 10 or 6 to 10 or 8 to 10, whatever, you are used to the ICSE pattern, and my advice to you would be to stick to ICSE board, that is, I go to ISC instead of switching over to CBSE. CBSE question papers, syllabus, textbooks are very different, and someone who is very used to the ICSE way of learning will find adjustment problems, and you may end up spending a large part of your class 11 just making those adjustments. So my advice to all ICSE students is stick to ISC. Okay, this is my personal opinion. ISC is ideal for students who are aiming for humanities. It's ideal for students aiming for management if you're planning to write the IPMAT kind of examination, law, CLAT, or any of the liberal arts subjects, or you're planning to go abroad to study. See, for example, I'll take the example of IPMAT. Now, IPMAT is where you will go and do your management course, right? Or, for example, when my daughter went for her MBA, see, that involves group discussion, that involves interview stage, right? So you need to be in a position where you are able to express yourself very well. An ISC board essentially prepares you better language skills, better articulation skills. So if you are in an atmosphere where your school or your peer group enables you to do all that, ISC therefore is much better for all these kind of competitive examinations. There is superior focus on English language and literature, as you very well know here. Anyone who has followed me on Study with Sudhir will know that. The depth of the syllabus, both in science and commerce, is also very good. It's not as though it's inferior in any way to CBSE. In fact, it's much more deep, okay, much more advanced. The only thing is that students preparing for NEET or JE will also have to additionally read the NCRT books. Not that what they have studied will not be there in NCRT, but they will need to program themselves according to the NCRT syllabus. That's an extra thing anyone preparing for NEET and JE will have to do. I hope I'm making myself clear. Now, the weakness is that the syllabus is more bulky. You have more number of papers. English, you have 2 papers, one for language, one for literature. But if you have been used to the ICSE, this will seem like a walk in the park, no big deal. Because it does not align with NCRT, students will have to put in that effort, as I just now told you. The opportunities, when especially if you're writing exams like TOEFL, GRE, SAT, IELTS, because of your high standard of English, you will be in a better position. It will give you an advantage. Okay, you also would get better in doing things like research, skill-based programming, etc. It will be good, though CBSE also is trying to do a lot on that front also. But ISC gives you that grounding, especially if you've been in an ICSE school from a young age. If you're attending coaching classes, that's a big problem, threat. If you're attending coaching classes for competitive examinations, the workload in ISC may seem a little more, right? But I've seen students, many of my students who are preparing for NEET ended up scoring 97, 98% in class 12. So it's not as though, they don't do well. If you are used to that discipline and rigor, you will find it easy to you will manage to do the board examination portion also. It's all a matter of approach and discipline. Okay. The third category are the state boards, and this will obviously, it could be Maharashtra State Board, it could be Uttar Pradesh State Board, it could be Bengal State Board, it could be Telangana State Board. Okay, different depending on where you are, or Tamil Nadu State Board, right? So these students, if you are focusing, oh, I don't want to give JE, right? Like, for example, I know a student of mine who did not want to give JE. She gave it, but she prepared more for the Maharashtra Common Entrance Examination for engineering and got admission to a prestigious engineering college in the Maharashtra quota, right? So you primarily focus on facing and taking the state level entrance examinations. It could be for engineering or it could be for medical. The load, the workload, the syllabus load in the state boards is much less. So therefore, you actually get a lot of time to focus on the preparation for the competitive examination. That's one major advantage. It's also seen as scoring friendly. The syllabus is more precise, more concise. The evaluation is also a little lenient, though sometimes not very accurate in many state boards. And thereby students end up scoring high percentage, and that helps them in their college admissions, which are based on board marks. That is the non-CUET. The weakness is that it would lack the depth. If you are planning to go to a state board and then write the JE, you may not be able to do so because the level of these two would be quite different. Unless you're going to an integrated coaching center, which will help you take care of the JE or NEET, right? The English standard, again, is lower than the two state board, national boards, CBSE and ISC. But the opportunity is that the students can focus entirely on their competitive examination, and national level shift towards CUET. If you're planning to give CUET, you would be at a disadvantage because your textbooks at the state board level will be very different from the NCERT books. Though I know that there are some state boards which are planning to shift to NCERT over a period of time, but it may not happen immediately. Like Maharashtra, I read that it is planning to do the same, but that will again take a few years. So my take at the end of this entire comparison between the three boards is that please remember that no board is superior or inferior to any other. They are just different paths that you take in order to reach your destination. Okay. It is very possible that a CBSE student may be excellent. Like I studied in CBSE. I started teaching ICSE because I was teaching my daughter who was in ICSE. But I have been a CBSE student all my life from class 1 to class 12, right? I was excellent in literature, in language, in humanities subjects. So it's not as though you were, and I was equally good in science subjects also. In chemistry and biology, I was excellent, right? So it is not that, a CBSE student can't do well in literature or any of the humanities subject. Similarly, it is not as if an ISC student cannot crack JEE. I just not told you the example of one of my students who cracked NEET. She's studying in a medical college in Lucknow, Anushka Gupta, and she was an ISC student. So absolutely no problem. It all depends on your discipline and your approach. It all comes down to your consistency and how you use the resources which are available to you. So what I would advise parents listening to this, what I would advise students listening to this is that choose the board that aligns with your ambition, with your path, with your dream, and then put in the hard work. It's not as though if you go to CBSE, it will be a cakewalk. No, in fact, I find CBSE class 12 syllabus quite tough, very tough. And if you put in the hard work, the results will follow, because at the end of the day, that's all what matters. If this comparison between the three boards helped you decide, make up your mind, drop in a comment with what you chose, and I would be keen to listen to you and get your feedback. So like, share, hype, subscribe to Careers with Sudhir for more such informative videos where I can kind of help decode some of these career options that are available to you, which you may not be aware of. What you need is professional help from someone who understands how this entire world, the professional world, really operates. Okay, these are our three sister channels just for your information. Study with Sudhir, as you may be aware, for ICSE, ISC and Maharashtra State Board. class 11 and 12, that is ISC and State Board. CBSE with Sudhir for classes 6, 7, 8, 11 and 12. And our latest channel, Win with Sudhir, which we have just launched last week, for CBSE classes 9 and 10, where I will be teaching in simple English, because there are a whole lot of channels which teach in Hindi. So teach in simple English and teach English, science and social science. Okay, my subjects. Tata, bye bye. Thank you very much. Namaskar.